Okay, now it's working. Um, During the last stream, a question has come up as to which skills I like most in Heroes 5, and I figured I might as well address this with this wonderful skill wheel here. This is the skill wheel for Heroes 5 Tribes of the East. As you can see here, it goes through several heroes. I personally like Krag most. I think he's actually called Grumsh in the game. Anyway, the orcs, or barbarians, I have a couple of very useful skills. I usually go with the absolute rage, or I try to get it, which means you have to kind of lock yourself into getting these abilities here. And depending on how things go, I usually go with a different, or with other skills as well. For my main hero, who is the one most likely to actually get to this point, I like to get mentoring. First, because Enlightenment is great, it adds a lot of stats to you as well. It gives you more experience, which is also very handy. And the mentoring is just great to get your other heroes a massive boost. Because experience grows, I think, exponentially per level. Although the experience needs grow quite fast per level. Level or 25% of your experience will get a level 1 hero quite far. So level 10 to 15 is no big deal. It can usually be about half your hero or your main hero's level. Or even higher. I've never really done the math, but it's quite substantial. It does make a difference if you have those 10 levels or not. So yeah, this is very, very useful. Aside of that, I like to go with a Death March and Warpath for Barbarians, or in general. If I don't get basic logistics, I also like the luck skill. With everything but undead, I generally want to have some leadership as well. And yeah, either this or one of those two. With the orcs, you don't necessarily need either of those abilities here, like the shouting or destroying certain magic schools. Although, of course, it can come in handy if you get them. I mean, certain things like Back to the Void, which give you thrice as much damage to summoned enemies, that's kind of nice. I believe it also counts gated enemies. But yeah, it's kind of. I think it's kind of situational, and I prefer to have those skills over here, which will always give you that bonus. Okay. Yeah, with. Let's go through those here. With the Demon Lord, obviously, we'll go with this again. And depending on what you get, I like the leadership. Mentoring, not so much here because you can get, if you have Deneb, who has the ballista thing, a triple ballista is great because it means your ballista fires 3 fireballs, and there's nothing to not like about that except being on the receiving end of those. Aura of Swiftness is great, and I guess Diplomacy. If you don't want leadership, you can also go with luck quite nicely here. So you get better portals and, I don't know, either drop the enemy luck by 1, which really doesn't do too much of a dent. They usually have some form of luck or some lucky artifact, which means this is basically void. But resourcefulness also helps quite a bit. Also, gating becoming instant is quite a powerful thing to get. With the absolute rage, which gives you 500 points of rage, most of your creatures will start at level 1 or 2 rage already, which is just freaking amazing. Now for the humans, I'm not too happy with this skill actually, or with the Haven or Night creatures, because Retaliation Strike means you have to actually be hit. And getting triple damage out of that is just nothing I'm extremely excited about, because any strategy that requires you to actually be hit kind of sucks. At least in my opinion, it's not a viable strategy. The training thing is kind of nice to have. Also, Guardian Angel is a pretty neat skill to bring in. I mean, you get your last or your most powerful group back if your creatures die on the battlefield. So that basically wards off a loss. Outside of that, yeah, you can pretty much go with whatever you want. Since I tend to go with only one school of magic, which I focus on with a hero. So, yeah, this is a nice thing to get. Light magic, if you have to use that anyway, why not? I'm not sure if you gain too much from Enlightenment here. As I said, I don't particularly like actually having those, actually using knights and using those troops, because I think they're just the most bland, basic fantasy trope stuff, or they're the most boring troops. So yeah, instead of that, there's nothing too great here. Except Banish is a very nice skill if you have demons, or if you're fighting against demons. And yeah, that stuff is nice. Cold Steel is kind of fun, but as usual, go with the right side here or with the left side here. So War Machines are great. I like, at least like, if you get resurrection spells and decent mana, you can go with that. If you don't, go with the first aid tent, and if you're likely to do many sieges, get at least the basic catapult skill, because it allows you to take out turrets way quicker. If you want, you can also get the Tremor spell, but it's up to you really. But I still think this side is the way better one. Although sorcery is nice to have as well. Although I would say counterspell is not that great with a knight, because you don't have that massive mana pool. A necromancer, certainly a great class. The Howl of Terror is nice, especially with enemy morale down by 6, which means you actually don't miss too much over the leadership opponents. I mean, if you don't have that, your undead will always have a bit of a disadvantage against troops or against living troops with a good morale, because you just will not have that morale bonus. You won't get that. Obviously, with a necromancer, I don't think you need to. I don't think you need leadership skill, because you're very unlikely in most cases to actually bring living creatures with you. So you can ignore this thing entirely and just focus on, as usual, I like to go with. I like this Spoils of War, and Soldier's Luck. But you can do other things as well. As I said, luck is not necessarily the greatest thing to have. You usually get some form of lucky artifact, so it's not too necessary. More movement is always great, and of course War Machines. Go pick any of those you want. I don't think you'll need more magic schooling than what you get here. Sorry. Simply because one of the spells you're going to use most is going to be, in my opinion, Resurrect Undead. Or Raise Dead, rather. And this is just, yep, this is covered in here. You get more undead, you get more creatures back, and you can even banish them. And especially in conjunction with the Mark of Necromancer, which is another very, very useful skill, you should be able to do a lot. Now, if you want to take that to the max, you can also go with Sorcery, which means your next turn will come up quicker. So you can keep throwing those spells out. And I think that can save a few battles for you if you want to. With Counterspell, you might want to be careful, because it will burn through your mana quite fast. And that can have certain disadvantages as well. Yeah, what else? The rest is pretty much up to you, really. I mean, this is all my personal take on those strategies, and my personal take on what works for me and what may not work for you. I don't know. Okay, I mean, all of those can have certain use, but I just never found, for example, that light magic is that great for you if you have a necromancer. Although some of those buffs are powerful. Rangers, nice class as well. Nature's luck, wonderful skill. Having luck every time, except when you fight somebody against somebody who has absolute protection, is just immense. Now, what would I go with here? Obviously, you'd want the imbued ballista, so you could go with that and that. Or you could get the first aid if you wanted to. I mean, you do have plenty of ranged and flying creatures with the dragons. So unless those turrets really bother you, you can actually just forego the catapult entirely and just focus on getting creatures back with both live magic and your first aid tent. Although, of course, live magic will be a bit dodgy because you are going to... you're probably going to use your hero attacks more often with those special skills here. Outside of that, I think being able to use Aura of Swiftness is great, and Diplomacy. Those can come in handy. If you don't want that, obviously go for Mentor. I mean, you're going to use luck anyway, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, anything else is fine as well. Like you could go with sorcery, so you can cast spells and then get your turn back quicker, so you can maybe attack. I don't know if sorcery actually accounts for those imbued arrows as well, if those count as spells or as regular attacks. So yeah, you can also see 4% chance to obtain the skill. That's not too high. 10% here. And that's one of the big downsides of the game that I would like to talk about, or of the skill system, is that sometimes you just can't get the hero or the skill loadout you want, simply because you have a very low chance of getting that skill and you could not obtain it because it's just not offered to you. Which is why you definitely want to have those basic skills first when you actually try to do something, when you try to go for this skill. Also, some heroes just can't have it, which I think is also a bit of an oversight on the developer's side, because if you're bound to have only certain heroes who can't get it, for example, if, like in the extreme game, you have 4 dwarven players, you're very unlikely to get a dwarven hero. I was lucky we actually got one. And what I don't like about this is that you often get heroes that have been used by the AI before, that have been leveled by the AI before, and that just have been horribly skilled by the AI before. So you don't actually... so you can't use their skills as good as you would like to. Anyway, Rune Mage. Now you can have fun with those runes, but those don't need your hero turns, so you might as well go in with magic. And since you have those 2 magic schools already, you could just commit fully to spell casting and go with sorcery, maybe counterspell, maybe other things. But I found counterspell is very useful when you have academy or other opponents who just sling spells left, right, and center. The obvious other option would be to use war machines. I particularly like the runic war machines, which give them more initiative, so you have their turn quicker. And if your hero is strong enough, you can actually do quite a bit of harm with this. Then again, since you are unlikely to actually get too many resurrection spells, you can also go with first aid, which can at least buffer some of your losses. Aside of that, the usual suspect here, which would be... I also like the special skills that only a certain class can have, like the Runic Attunement here. Aside of that, of course, empathy and, I don't know, maybe intelligence for more mana, especially if you go with more things here. Especially if you go with more sorcery and counterspell. I mean, this is kind of a must-have for dwarves. And I think absolute protection is worth it in the end. So the only class which isn't worth it, in my opinion, is actually the knight. Although Warlocks are a bit of a mixed bag as well. And the elemental chain damage, I think, is not too great. It leaves a lot to be desired. But of course, if you can get it and you want to use it, it can make the difference every now and then. I do like those 3 base skills here for destructive magic, especially Master of Ice and of Storms, which can stun your opponents, which means they will not have you can postpone their turns. You can push them back on the initiative bar, which then allows you to hit them more often, so you can completely avoid or prevent them from getting their turn, which prevents them from regaining their retaliation, which prevents them from attacking you. But those are things you definitely want to achieve. So that's kind of cool. The elemental vision thing, I'm a bit torn on. It's nice to have this bonus damage, but I just think it's never really that much to make a great difference. Sometimes you get a kill or 2 more, but overall it's just not that amazing in my opinion. It's kind of an underwhelming skill. It's still better than the it's still better than a knight skill, which requires you to actually get hit in order to be useful. But yeah, it's not the greatest. Warlock's Luck, great thing if you use destructive magic anyway, because you can have luck for that. And oh boy, double damage from a high spell power hero, that hurts. Obviously, our swiftness comes in handy. Diplomacy, estate's never that great. I mean, 250 gold per day is nice, and it can stack up quite massively. I just think it's kind of a waste for a full equipment slot. You can just, especially with the Dark Elves, with Warlocks, you can just buy, you have the Artifact Merchants, you can just buy the Endless Sack of Gold or the Endless Bag of Gold, which are 2 different items. I think there's a third one as well. You can just buy those and have the same thing and not waste your hero slot or your skill slot. So diplomacy would probably be better here, in my opinion. And yeah, the usual suspects here. Never really go with Plague Tent, because I just felt that if you use your first aid tent anyway, at some point you will be attacked, and in that case the tent may just save you having to buy a new creature, especially these aggressive ones. Even those can be saved by the first aid tent. It actually gets the ability to resurrect things if you can control it. If you can't, it will just restore health, but if you can control it, it can actually resurrect things, and that is a great ability to have. So it's certainly worth it, especially if you don't use light magic, or if you don't use the undead. And the rest, Tremors is nice because it's a powerful spell if you have the spell power for it. And if you can stun creatures behind the fortress walls, why not go for it? If you don't want the war machines, of course, you can go with either of that again. I'm not too happy with those attack and defense skills because I just find the bonuses aren't too impressive, although mass haste is nice to get. But yeah, getting more damage, not necessarily. Although archery is kind of nice. But yeah, I think it's not that great because you will deal more damage anyway because your hero stats are thrown on top of your creature stats. So as your hero gets better, you deal more damage anyway. And this is just like the icing on the cake, but it's nothing that I find too useful in most instances. Yeah, what else? I think that's it for the Warlocks. Now finally the Wizard. Wizard is a great class, although I rarely find myself using the artificing skill in the early game. But I like fighting wizards early on, especially AI wizards, because they have those artifacts, and you can sell those for a fortune. Now, since the arcane, I said you want market wizard here. Since the arcane omniscience gives you every spell, the beginning of the game is a bit more difficult because I think you can forego all the magic schools here. There are some useful abilities in them, but for the most part you can safely forego them. because you get all the spells at master level anyway, or expert level, which is master level. So yeah, that's. Can I unlock that? Okay, fine. I can't unselect that anymore. Now with wizards, and I find the wizard class is actually one of the better crafted. It feels like they had more effort flowing into them, because they have a few fairly useful skills. Now, something I do consider absolutely great is this combination here, together with Death March or Warpath, depending on what you want, or even Teleport Assault. That's a great spell as well. Basically means that a creature teleport can actually gets its turn faster, so in many cases it gets its turn right away. So you boost them, you can just teleport a creature to the enemy, have a go at them, and basically prevent bad things from happening. You can teleport right into a group of archers, and then just hit them already. March of the Golems is amazing. I mean, in most cases, golems are the slowest creatures possible. I remember that's their thing since at least Heroes 2. It always said, okay, golems were so slow they can't be slowed down any further. So that's why they're immune to slowdown effects. Now, if you have Artificial Glory, they can actually have a positive morale, no negative. March of the Golems gives them +2 speed, and Aura of Swiftness gives them another +1 speed. So your golems will have a morale, and they'll have 3 more speed. Which means they are not that slow anymore. And since golems kind of balance their low speed by dealing a lot of damage and having a lot of health, this makes your golems killing machines. Pretty much killing machines. And I think that's just downright amazing. You can have so much fun with this. Because I think the AI also often doesn't account for their increased movement. So yeah, this is horrible, and giving all the other creatures another +1 speed as well is hilarious as well. Also, because you can make artifacts, you can make your golems even faster. So if you have the resources, which is a big deal, those artifacts are expensive. But if you can make those, and if you equip those and you tweak your hero or your creature's abilities accordingly, you can really mess the enemy up. Because you can give them, I think, up to 2 more speed with the right artifact. And oh boy, is that amazing. There is just something great about the amount of customization and the amount of stuff you can get with a wizard. And also, Counterspell is something you can safely use with a wizard because they'll have such a tremendously huge mana pool that you can, I mean, from I think around level 10 to 15, they'll have such a huge amount of knowledge and spell power. You can just keep throwing spells left, right, and center, and you'll still have a lot of mana left. So Counterspell is nice because it negates a spell, but it costs twice the mana, which is the downside. But it will completely negate the spell, so I think it even negates Armageddon. There are a few people I've talked to who like the Armageddon strategy, and not being able to use that and having to rely on their actual troops doing the damage and just not soaking up Armageddon, I think is an entirely different class of annoying to them. Because of course they would also have to consider, okay, do they want to waste their spell? Or their hero's spell move? And of course drain your mana, but their own as well. And do they basically negate your counterspell? Or do they want to just do they want to attack? So yeah, I'm absolutely loving this ability here. And of course, with a wizard, you want sorcery because you get to cast more spells. Obviously, the downside of this strategy is that you do not have access to level 3, 4, and 5 spells very early on. You will get some, no you won't. You will get everything to level 2, which includes some very, very fun destructive spells, most of the buffing spells, and with Mark of the Wizard you can actually circumvent the lack of being able to do that. There's expert level spells, like Light Magic gives you the mass spell, so you can affect every creature. Dark Magic does that as well, I think. And with Mark of the Wizard you can just you can copy a spell to another creature, which is kind of nice. And that's almost like either casting twice a spell or having a double or twice as strong spell. So yeah, remote control, very situational. I've not seen it in good use too often. But yeah, being able to control the ballista or the first aid tent does have its uses as well. Now with tremors and the catapult's ability, you will also be able to knock down enemy fortifications very, very quick. So yeah, this is a very fun class, very, very powerful, and I think you could almost argue that they are overpowered. Needing Mentor to actually get your ultimate skill is also useful for me because I love the mentoring skill. And of course I love the Enlightenment ability to gain more stats and gain more experience. I mean, look at this Enlightenment. It's a very, very powerful skill. You gain +1 to a primary stat for every 2 levels now. This gives you 1 for every 3 levels. Yeah, for every 3 levels, and this for every 4 levels. And since you need to reach level 38 in order to get all of those, although I think you can click that, fine. I mean, you're unlikely to reach level 38 in most games. I only had this once, and I had to use. I think I started by picking Enlightenment and leveling that up to where I needed it to go. And then I found the set of Enlightenment. There's a turban and I think a golden chainmail of Enlightenment, which give you like another 50% extra experience on top of what you already get there. So that's one way to get to high to high levels. Although sadly, I think I messed up at this point because I was given the option between Brimstone Rain and Ballista or First Aid or something, and I could not pick this skill. It was not offered to me. Or some other spell or skill was not offered to me, so I could not go with that, and it was like literally the last thing I would have needed for this. Could have also been this here. I don't know. But yeah, it's been a rather disappointing match because I got my level and I could not go with that skill, and I was kind of banking on having that. So yeah, I mean, if you only want to go for your center skill here, you can actually just do that, and you can just try to get those, but you will most likely end up with another skill. I mean, you'd be able to get there by level 25, I guess. But it will be pretty hard because not having those skills here, or not having any extra skills, will bar you from quite a few perks as well. And it means you'll not be able to get quite a few things. Okay, anyway, I hope this answers some questions. And you can assume that this is pretty much all the time how I want to go about leveling my heroes. So I will not show the skill wheel again. You can, by the way, if you want, you get this with the GOG installation for free. It just comes with that. You can go with the, I think, back up in goodies, and there's the skill wheel. So that's a way. It's also somewhere in the Heroes 5 install folders. You can also Google it, Heroes 5 skill wheel, and you get that. Although I believe in some, at least for some Elven heroes, I know that it's not accurate. There's a bit of an error. They have the wrong starting skill, so the entire thing doesn't work for that one hero. I forgot which one, but I think I forgot it. So you'll see when you do that. But aside of that, it's a very, very useful tool to plan your skills. It's nice to see which skills you get for using this and that, and that's just downright useful. Of course, if you disagree with that, you're free to. Some people do like the archery or defense perk here, and do claim that this helps a lot. I personally, defense is something I'm never really going for unless I have to, simply because it's I try not to get hit in the first place. And in Heroes 5 with the initiative system, that is actually possible. It's very frustrating for your enemy if you do that, but it is possible to actually not get hit at all, which means the entire point of the defense perk is somewhat moot. Would be even better if you could prevent their hero from getting a turn. But yeah, it's not always that easy. Okay. Yeah, any questions? Do feel free to leave a comment below. If you want to argue, then we might want to do it on the Discord because that's probably easier. I don't know who did this, by the way. The Skillwheel is, I think, a fan-created content, but a pretty damn amazing one. So whoever did this, thank you so much. It also something that confused me in the beginning was how everything worked here. Like when you start the game, you just pick random skills and. I knew that, for example, those three. Not sure, but some of them were in Heroes 3. So I knew that you had those war machines, and I knew that there were skills to control those war machines manually. Aside of that, I was not sure what was there. And I noticed that sometimes you would get other skills, but I don't know which were there. And it's also nice to be able to see what skills you can get. For example, if you want light magic, or if it's worth picking for your strategy. Like, okay, do I want to have only half the mana cost, which might be worth it for knights? Although, of course, then you'd probably miss out on the contribution skill if you want that. What else can you get? Where does it go? What can you achieve? What do I need if I wanted to have the mana burst skill, for example? Just a random example here. Well, if I wanted artificial glory, what do I need for that? Would I need to have 2 of those, or how does that work? And yeah, that makes the skill wheel an immensely useful tool for so many things. Oops, didn't want to do that. Yep. Again, up for discussion, but that's just the way I like to skill my heroes. And yeah, just in case you've been wondering during the streams how I want my hero or what I want to end up with in terms of skills, this is pretty much the way I go with every hero. This is my kind of cookie cutter approach for most heroes. It has worked very well for me. As I said, you may have found other things that worked better for you, or that just were more appealing to you, that made the game easier for you, that just made the game more fun for you. But yeah, this is just the way it works for me. I don't claim it's the best way to level up stuff. I don't claim it's the perfect way to level up stuff. And of course, sometimes you just can't get that way because you just don't get the skills for that when you level up. And again, I think this a bit of randomness is somewhat annoying, although I believe that in most cases you can. You can get the way you want if you pick the skills wisely. Like if you start with those basic skills, like basic leadership, basic logistics, base enlightenment, basic war machines, and if you get those base things down first, you have a much better chance of getting the rest sorted out, because you can just upgrade this. And since the perks you're offered here are always chosen from the pool of things that you have available, I think it gets a lot easier to level up the way you want if you have those 4 things down. Of course, there's still no guarantee, and don't blame me if something doesn't work out as you planned. But yeah, that's also the second video for today. I've been talking for like 3 hours now, so I really need a drink. I also need to actually get going. I did some laundry today and other stuff, which also all need doing. It's something you don't realize when you haven't moved out of your parents' home yet. I mean, I have many years ago, so I was well aware of it, but it's still a thing that takes a lot of time. So I'll go do that. I also need to buy some food now. I mentioned in the sheltered video today. I need to fill up the fridge again and get a few things that I just couldn't get last time, or that I ran out of during the last few days. Yeah. I made this video mostly because I've had a bit of a discussion with on the last live stream, on the Heroes live stream, about which skills I consider best, and I think you can't really give this cookie cutter answer and say, okay, yeah, this skill is the best for every class, because as I say, the leadership skill, for example, is great for almost all classes because getting those initiative bonuses is wonderful, but it's essentially useless for the undead because they don't have morale and you just squandered an entire ability slot which you could use for so many more fun things. Heck, you could even get light magic or whatever, or dark magic or destructive magic, or something with that, with those 3 perks that you would waste for leadership. And yeah, that's just my take on it. So I hope you still enjoyed this. It's a bit of a different video because you haven't seen any actual gameplay. This is not a game per se. It's just a program that works for the game, or that allows you to plan your game progress a bit better. It does not actually, it does not pick those skills for you. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't actually work with the game memory, like for example Dwarf Therapist does. It's just a thing that lets you plan things out. It also lets you see what skills a hero comes with. For example, here we have Noor, who has a very, very useful skill in a very useful innate skill, which is you actually get mana regeneration in combat, but you can't get the Arcane Omniscience here, so you'll have to do something else. So you could go with one of those magic schools instead. Anyway, as I said, I hope you found this somewhat informative or enjoyable, maybe even both. And next time we'll go back to the regular content, which will be, I don't know which day of the week is it. I think today is Wednesday. So yeah, tomorrow I'll not be at home too much because it's the 28th. Actually, I'll probably be mostly not at home until the New Year's Eve. Which means, yeah, of course, I'll also be likely to make less videos. I'll try to get something done today, but I can't promise it. I also need to do an application today or in the next few days, which is somewhat important. I find a job that I would totally like, although I'm very unlikely to get that position, but if I do, I'll probably be laughing for years to come. So, yeah. I'll keep you updated if anything new in that regard happens. Until then, I hope you still have a nice day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.